Hi students, in this video I am going to explain you how to create a FlowGoRithm program based on the given instruction file assignment. Also I will explain you the Python code. Let's get started. Let's first go through the instruction file carefully. So in the instruction file on the screen you can see it is given refer to the pseudocode assignment from unit 1 and create a FlowGoRithm program based on that assignment. And this is optional assignment and is worth 5 bonus points. So here we are going to work on a task called distance traveled. If we assume there will be no accidents or delays, the distance a car can travel on the interstate is calculated by the following formula. As you all know, distance is equals to speed multiplied by the time. Using Microsoft Word or a text editor, we have to write the pseudocode that would accomplish the following. Define all necessary variables and constants. Ask for the input of the speed of the vehicle. Calculate and display on separate lines the distance traveled in 6, 10, and 15 hours. So here the time is given and they are constants. One is 6 hours, one is 10 hours, and another one is 15 hours. And the sample output is also shown below. So the distance traveled in 5 hours at 55 miles per hour speed is 275 miles. Just by multiplying 5 times the 55, we get this distance traveled. So use your name as part of the file name, and you can see the example here, and points will be deducted for incorrect file name. So let's move on to the Python code first. So we are actually showing this Python code to help students visualize the logic of the assignment in FlowGoRithm software. Students are actually encouraged to write the code for the assignment. However, it is not required. Writing the code is optional. You can also download the code from the given link. Let me show you the link. So this is the link by which you can actually download the code and can work on your FlowGoRithm. Now let's move forward in creating the FlowGoRithm by using the code. So let me align this code first onto the left hand side. Let me open the FlowGoRithm chart as well. This is the FlowGoRithm software. Double click on it and click. Let me align this. So on the left side of the program you can see the Python code, and on the right side you can see the FlowGoRithm chart. So the FlowGoRithm goes from main to all the way to end. So we have to write the declare the variables and assign the values, and store the values in as input and display the results as output using the output boxes only in between main to end. And on the left side, first let me explain you the Python code here. So you all know the main method is the entry point of an executable program, So it is where the program control starts and ends. This is the entry point of your application. So it's the method that's run when you run your program. So you could write your application logic elsewhere, but you have to run it from main method itself. So here we define the main method. uh, in order to define it, we use a keyword def and write the main. Then this left bracket and right bracket indicates this is a method, and inside the method we have the calculation logic. So as per the instructions, so we have to declare the constants for hours. It is clearly given. We have to calculate the distance traveled for 3 hours, like hour 1, hour 2, and hour 3. And in order to store these constants, so in Python or in Java or anywhere, like the constants are defined, like the naming convention will be in the capital letters. So here we are using hour underscore 1 in capital letters to let the compiler or the interpreter know this is a constant. So we store that value 6 in the hour 1 constant variable, and 10 in the hour 2 constant variable, and 15 in the hour 3 constant variable. And then we have to prompt the user to enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. So here this is the speed variable, and we are assigning the value entered by the user in the speed variable. So let me explain you this line number 10 here. So first you can see this is the input variable, this is the input method, sorry. So for this is an inbuilt method. So it takes the input as a string, and then it will display it on the console. So that is the functionality of this input method, and we are passing a string here, enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. This will be displayed on the console. And and again this float method is also an inbuilt method. So here, and this float method takes this entire value as input. Here we get input method returns one value, like this string will be thrown, enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. So whatever the user enters the input, let's say he has entered a value of 20, so that will be passed as an input to the float method. And then the functionality of float method is, if the user has entered a value 20, then it converts the value to 20.0. It adds the decimal, because it is we want it to make it as a float variable from integer to float. So the 20.0 will get stored in the speed variable. And once we got this value as 20.0 on the right hand side, the interpreter decides the data type of the speed variable as float. And now we have to calculate the distances for each time interval. So as you all know, distance is calculated by multiplying the speed into with the time. So I am using a variable distance underscore in underscore 6 underscore hours. Distance in 6 hours is calculated by using the speed variable, the speed entered by the user multiplied by the hour 1 constant. Similar way, we have to calculate distance in 10 hours, which is nothing but the speed multiplied by hour 2 constant. And the same way, distance in 15 hours is speed multiplied by hour 3. And then we are displaying the distances here. So here you can see in the line number 18, print, and this f, the f in the print statement indicates a formatted string literal or f string in Python. It allows you to embed expressions directly inside the string literals by enclosing them in curly braces. You can see here we are enclosing the speed and the distance in 6 hours variables in the curly braces. These are the values we get from the line number 10 and line number 13. So these values are dynamic values. In order to print them, so we use these curly braces in the print statement. And so why we use this f strings here? Because base readability, it keeps the code clean and easy to read, and it also has like inline expressions. You can include calculations or function calls directly. So here directly, and one more thing, like automatic type conversion as well. It converts values to strings automatically. That is why we use f strings. And like when to use f strings, we need to, whenever we need to insert variables or expressions in a string, then we have to use these f strings. So like this way we are displaying the results, the distance traveled in 6 hours at whatever the user entered the speed, uh, miles per hour is, and the calculated value for the distance in 6 hours and distance in 10 hours, distance in 15 hours. And here we are also using dot 1f because we have to display the decimal variables as well. So I just need only one decimal one decimal value after the decimal point. So I'm using 0.1f here. If I want two decimal values, then I have to use 0.2f float values. So this is the way. And here we have to call the main function to run the program. Let's create a FlowGoRithm chart based on this Python code on the left side. So you can see here it starts with the main. Now right click on this downward arrow, and now we have to declare the variables. So we have to use the real variables here, type real. So I'm entering the variable names speed and distance. Let's assume like in 6 hours we are calculating the distance, and for 10 hours we have to calculate the distance. So distance 10 is one more variable, and for 15 hours the variable we are using is distance 15. We can declare individually like speed, and again click ok, and then again go back and use down, you click on the arrow mark and again declare variable value, and again enter distance 6 and then click ok. So in order to like save the space and time, like we have the option to save all the variables at a time. So I'm entering ok here. So we have declared the speed, distance in 6 hours, distance in 10 hours, and distance in 15 hours. We have to also declare the constants here. So let me click on the arrow and use this declare box and double click on it. Now, so as the constant values are integers, you can see on the left hand side. So I am entering the hour one as like hour 6, comma, for the hour 2 as hours 10, and comma hour 3 as hours 15. Let me click ok. So now we just declare the hour 1, hour 2 and hour 3 variables here. Like the variable names are hour 6, hour 10, hours 15. So we have to assign the values here. Let me right click on the arrow mark again and use this assign box and double click on it. Now just use hour 6 as the variable name we declared above, and then the expression value is, as we are assigning a constant value here, we have to enter 6 here, then click OK. Again right click, assign, sorry, now house 10, the value we have to expression, in the expression we have to enter is 10 constant value. Similar way we have to assign house 15, and the expression we have to enter is 15. Then click OK, and now we have to display a message. So in order to display a message, we use the output box, and just right click on this and just enter the message you want to display on the console. So let's enter, let's ask, prompt the user to enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. Let's click OK. Now we just prompted the user and displayed a message, enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. Now we have to store that value whatever the user has entered in a variable, and in order to store a value we have to use this input box. Click on it, double click on it, and use the variable name speed that we declared in the very first. Let's click OK. So whatever the user enters the value, that will be stored in the variable speed here. And now we have to calculate the distances for each time interval, and right click on it, then use this assign box, double click on it, and use the variable distance 6 that we declared above, and the expression for that is speed multiplied by the hours. For 6 hours, the distance in 6 hours should be speed multiplied by constants like 6. That is the, in 6 hours we are calculating, right? That's why the variable I stored, the 6 value is stored in the hour 6. That's why I used here hour 6. Let's click OK. The same manner, use one more assign, then calculate the value for distance 10, speed times hours 10. Click OK. Again for distance 15, you have to use the expression speed times hours 15. Let's click OK. And now after calculating the values, we have to declare the, we have to display the results. So we have to use this output box in order to show the output message on the console. Double click on it and write, it's a string variable, so the distance traveled in 6 hours 8. So we have to enclose this in the two quotation marks, and then in order to get the dynamic value in the FlowGoRithm, we use ampersand and the variable name. Left side and right side we use ampersand, and we just write the variable name there, so that the FlowGoRithm will fetch the calculated dynamic variable or user entered variable dynamic number, and it displays. And then again it like the sentence we have to continue, then starts again in quotes. Distance traveled in 6 hours at this much miles per hour is, again we have to use the dynamic variable, so I have to use ampersand, and the distance 6, and this is miles here. Let's give a space. Now let me just copy this for other ones as well. So you can see, in order to display a string, we are using two quotes here. Inside the quotes, whatever is mentioned that will be displayed on the console. And in order to fetch the dynamic value of a variable, we use ampersand at the both ends, left side and right side, and we give the variable name. And then again, if you want to add any string variable value, then we use again the quotes and write the string inside whatever we have to display. And again we use like ampersand for to get the dynamic values, and then any string we have to add, then we have to give it inside the double quotes. So this is how you have to display the results. Let's click OK. And in the same way, for 10 hours I will just double click on it and just copy paste and just update distance traveled in 10 hours, and the variable here is distance 10. Let's click OK. In the same manner, take this output box, double click. For 15 hours the distance variable is we used is 15. Let's click OK. That's it. Now let's first execute the Python code here. To click on the run. So it prompted enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. Let me enter a value like 18 and click enter. So you can see the distance traveled in 6 hours at 18 miles per hour is 108 miles. 6 multiplied by 18 is 108, and distance traveled in 10 hours at 18 miles per hour is 180 miles. 10 multiplied by 18 is 180. The distance traveled in 15 hours at 18 miles per hour is 270 miles, which is 15 multiplied by 18. So the same result we have to get when we execute this FlowGoRithm. So let me run the FlowGoRithm here with the same input. So it prompted enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. Let's take the same input 18. Now you can see we got the same output here. The distance traveled in 6 hours at 18 miles per hour is 108 miles. And the distance traveled in 10 hours at 18 miles per hour is 180 miles. And the distance traveled in 15 hours at 18 miles per hour is 270 miles. So once the FlowGoRithm executes successfully, we have to click on this file and save as. I am showing you the naming convention. In any folder, you just save the name like this: FlowGoRithm underscore practice underscore j underscore distance traveled dot fprg. So let me save this. So as I already have this fprg file created, so I'm just clicking on it as replace it. So now once you execute this FlowGoRithm, you have to take screenshots, upload the screenshots. So this is how we have to align this. The output on the left hand side and right hand side, and the FlowGoRithm chart one side. So you can see, just open the Microsoft Paint, click Windows print screen, in Microsoft Paint here, take a screenshot and just paste it here. And now you click on this A in the top left and then drag here on the empty space shown. So once it got selected, you have to write your name, student name. I am giving it as like professor name. Then you have to add student ID. Let me give some value here, and you have to write the date. Like today's date is 19th of December. You can give any color. Let's keep this as is. And now save this, save as. So here you have to save this like FlowGoRithm underscore practice underscore J underscore distance traveled underscore screenshot underscore 01. So this is how you have to save the rename the naming, give the naming convention and save it. And here you can observe in the screenshot 1, so the entire FlowGoRithm is not captured, only half of it is captured. So we have to take multiple screenshots in order to capture entire FlowGoRithm. So let me go back. So here you can see, let me scroll down here, the distance. So until end it is coming. So I have to take one more screenshot with the same output, and again open the paint, paste it here, and again click on this A, drag it, give the same details like your student name, student ID, and the date. Again save this as screenshot underscore 2, as this is the second screenshot. Save it. So this is how we are going to work on the upcoming assignments. Please keep in mind, follow all the instructions. Thank you.